Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. Today's video is going to be centering around 2022 and some board game stats for that, and I'm also going to be talking about my 10 most played games of this year. Now, as far as my stats, I'm talking about board game plays games that I played this year, and I log my plays for board games. Whenever I play a game, I go on BGG and I log it. And I'm pretty consistent about doing it. I mean, I probably didn't log every single game I played this year, but I did log, I would say, a good chunk of them, a good percentage of them. I'm pretty consistent about doing that. And yeah, I'm a nerd, so I love stats, and I love, like, at the end of the year looking back at my board game stats of that year, of the number of games I played, how many times I played certain games and stuff like that. And actually, there's only one other person that I game with regularly who does keep their stats as well. So I wish more people would, just because I like looking at them. But that's just myself. As far as this year, I actually played less games this year than I have in probably the last 4 years. This was a down year for me for board game plays, at least. And I think that's because of a few different reasons. But first, I'll get into the actual stats of this. So the number of board game plays I have it right here, for 2022 was 807, which, if you break that down to days, how many games I played per day, average games played per day was 2.2109, and it goes on and on and on. So a little bit over 2 games per day. And so that's pretty good, but it is actually down substantially from last year and the year before. Just for example, last year, for 2021, I played 1,107 board game plays, or I logged that many plays, which comes out to 3.0328 per games played per day. So a little bit over 3 games last year and 2 games this year. So substantially down by, I played basically 300 less games this year, or logged 300 less plays this year. There's a few different reasons for that, I believe. One, I think we played a lot less filler games this year, where before, and when I do my top 10 games played this year, there's going to be a couple filler games on there. But as far as this year, I think we're down on the filler game plays for myself. Because then before, we used to play filler games every single week. Before we had our game night, we'd play filler games. In between games, we'd have some filler games. And then after game night, while people were leaving, we'd have a couple filler games. It seems like we're doing that a lot less this year. We're basically playing maybe 1 or 2 big games, and then everybody leaves without playing the extra couple games for filler games, those 10 to 15-minute games. So I think that's why those games are down a little bit. Also, we had my main person that I used to play games with, 2-player games with, she has not played as many games this year. She's been pretty busy. So we've played a lot less 2-player games. Where before, I would go over to her house like once a week and we'd sit down for 4 or 5 hours, play games that day. So there's that. Also, I do have a full-time job, and then I run this channel, which is a few hours every single week that I dedicate to this channel. And also, I did happen to get a girlfriend this year, and she's not like a big board gamer. She'll play games with me every once in a while, but I mean, that has detracted a little bit from playing board games with it, which is perfectly fine, but those are some factors that have played into me playing a little bit less this year than in previous years, which is perfectly fine. I would like to, this year, I've got kind of a goal in mind, try to get back up to 1,000 games played this year. Hopefully we can do that. And yeah, it's just one of those things. Didn't get as many games played. I mean, I know I played a lot of games. Playing over 2 games per day, that means I'm dedicating probably at least an hour or 2 every single day to playing board games. And that's not even talking about on this channel. I talk about board games on this channel, so that has detracted from me playing games a little bit, which is ironic, but I enjoy talking about board games as well. With that being said, let's just jump into my top 10 most played games of this particular year, which is always really interesting for me to look at the end of the year, see which games I've played the most. So let's start with number 10. Number 10 is a game that I've really liked playing solo. This is The Lost Expedition, which it says in the box that you can play like cooperatively and you can play it multiplayer and stuff like that. I have never tried that because I just think it's such a good solo game. It's basically a hand management game where you're going to be moving across this jungle and you're just bad things are constantly happening and you're trying to mitigate that as best you can and have as few losses as you can. And you're just trying to make it to the end, the lost city of Z, trying to make it that. Very hard game to win, one that I've really enjoyed the several years. It was actually on my top 10 most played games last year as well, and it probably be on the next year's as well. Going to number 9. Number 9 is a flip and write game. This is Welcome to the Moon. The reason why this is on this list, I know, is because this is a campaign style game. This is, you have an 8-game campaign, and I played this solo as well, an 8-game campaign of this to go through 8 of these different games, 8 of these different maps, and I played through that twice. Plus, you can plug and play, take out different scenarios and play them individually, so I played through the campaign twice, plus I was playing different maps throughout the year as well without actually playing through the campaign. One of the best roll and write games in my opinion. Going to number 8. Number 8 is actually another roll and write game. This is Dinosaur Island Rawr and Write, which has actually replaced Dinosaur Island completely for me. I like this just as much as Dinosaur Island, plus it plays in a third of the time. It's 1/20th of the setup. It's very simple to set up this game. The Dinosaur Island basically just doesn't exist for me anymore because the Dinosaur Island Rawr and Write version is out. Going to number 7. Number 7 is a solo game, a small little solo game. The next 3 games are going to be basically filler games that I was talking about before. Filler games that I've really liked. This is a solo game. This is Sprawlopolis. It's a small button-shy game that I've really enjoyed over the past several years. It still gets broken out every couple weeks or so, and I play a game or two of that. And so that's why that's on this list. Going to number 6, again, another filler game. This is For Sale. I actually discovered For Sale just this year. It is considered a classic card game, but I'd never gotten to play it before. And I was like, I always put it to the side. Maybe I'll get to it sometime. I got to it this year, and it's sort of this neat little auction game that takes 15 minutes to play. And I really enjoyed it, and I showed a lot of people this game this year. So number 6 is For Sale. Let's go to number 5. Number 5, the last filler game on this. Well, I shouldn't say that. This is No Thanks, which this is probably the most surprising game that's on this list. And I didn't realize we had played it this much, though, this year. No Thanks is one of the simplest games you'll ever play, and it's still engaging, and it's a really good game to show new gamers. And so whenever I had new gamers come to our weekly game nights, we broke out this because it's the least intimidating game that you could probably ever play. Very simple game, little sort of auction sort of game. Fun little game though, No Thanks. Going to number 4. Number 4 is one of my all-time favorite games, and this will get played a lot every single year. This is Unmatched. This is a battling game where you can play 1 versus 1, or you can play 2 versus 2, or now you can play all versus all, where you basically pick one of these heroes or fighters and go up against these other fighters. And this card playing game, really, really fun game, one that I absolutely adore. Going to number 3. Number 3 is kind of this is like one of the games that the amount of times I played this game was not accurate, because I didn't log a lot of plays of this, because each play of this game can take anywhere from 30 seconds to 10 minutes. This is The Crew, and you can do the first crew or the second crew. You can do Quest for Planet 9 or Mission Deep Sea, I think the second one's called. And they're basically they're pretty much the same game, exactly. But it's a trick-taking cooperative game, and the reason why I didn't log every play is because if I logged every play of this, I would have like 30 or 40 different plays of The Crew in one single night if we did. So I went by my best judgment. If we played it like for 3 or 4 hours, I would log like 3 plays of this, basically. If I went by log plays, I definitely played this game more than any other game that ever, basically. I probably played 300 individual games of this. So I went by my best judgment and just logged a couple plays when I was playing this. Because you can't sit down and play The Crew for 5 minutes. You sit down and play The Crew for a few different hours. So yeah, number 3 is The Crew. Going to number 2. Number 2 is Arkham Horror, the card game. Now, this is an LCG, and why it was number 2 is because I played through a couple different campaigns. I think they're called campaigns. basically campaigns, which are anywhere from like 6 to 10 games each of them. And so we played, I think I'm on my third campaign, and we played individual games along with it. So we played it quite a bit this year, and I really like the story mode in Arkham Horror the campaign. But I like the next game I'm about to talk about more, which is another LCG. So number 2 was Arkham Horror the card game. Number 1 is Marvel Champions the card game, which is another LCG, like I said. But this is a Marvel-themed LCG, and it's quite a bit simpler to get into the game of Marvel Champions, more so than Arkham Horror. Marvel Champions is a little bit simpler system, but it doesn't have that story, that elaborate story, the fun story that I get from Arkham Horror. But Marvel Champions, I just really like the system. It's been my most played game for the last several years, and it will continue to be. I really like what Marvel Champions does and how they keep their audience engaged, because they keep coming out with new sets, basically two new heroes every like 2 months or so, plus a couple big box expansions throughout the year to keep you more engaged. So yeah, that's Marvel Champions, the card game, my number 1 most played game of this year. It was no surprise to me. I knew before I even looked at the list that this was going to be my most played game. And by the way, I play this one solo. I think it's okay multiplayer, but I really prefer this game as a solo game, for sure. Yeah, but that is my list for this year. That's my stats for the year. And thank you all for watching this channel for this last year or so and subscribing. Really, really appreciate all of the support that I've gotten for the last... Now I've been running this channel for 2 years now, and it's just something that I really enjoy as this little side project for myself. But as always, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me, Shane, at the board meeting in the future. Hope you all have an amazing day. Take care.